Do you have anything to say to all of the Eldar fanboys out here?
Yeah, screw you guys.
Good evening, ladies and gents. I'm Grimdork, and tonight we're talking Void Dancers from the White Dwarf. Man, I'm really sorry that I've been so slack over the past, well, kind of the past couple of months, to be honest. Been a lot going on, so sorry about that. Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a while. Any of you that have watched any of my videos will know that I'm a complete Harlequin fangirl. Eldar in general, actually, but Harlequins especially. So this is the team, the Void Dancers, that are going to be replacing the Troupe kill team. There's a little bit of controversy, I suppose. GW recommends that we get rid of Troupe and replace it with Void Dancers. Some people have taken that as gospel and they're not running Troupe at all. I guess time will tell as to what's going to happen to the Compendium team. Man, so I don't think there's anyone out there that's going to argue that this is probably the most complicated kill team in the game. There's a lot to take in. Once you get through all of the crazy wording that GW loves to kind of spew out, it's not as complicated as you think. And I'm going to take you through it all tonight, and hopefully by the end of it you'll have your head round pretty much what the deal is. There's a few things that make this team very complicated. It's not just the models and their loadouts and their equipment and their Tack Ops and their strats and everything. You've also got psychic powers to worry about, and you've also got this Sadeth thing, which is it's so needlessly complicated. Like I say, once you kind of get your head wrapped around it a bit and sort of cut through all of the crazy wording, it's not that bad. But it is kind of a little bit more complicated than the other teams that are out there. So we're going to sort of break that down and go through how I've kind of built my Void Dancers, how I'm playing them, talk to you about some combos and equipment and Tack Ops and stuff like that. Let's get started. So firstly, one thing I want to talk about is I think that this team has the propensity to be one of the most fun teams in the game. What's interesting about that is that usually the really fun teams are not all that competitive. Now, I don't really like to push the competitive stuff because I think you should be playing it for fun. But the cool thing about this, no, actually the cool thing about the Compendium Harlequin kill team is that they are fun to play. They are challenging, very unforgiving, but they've got flavour, you know? They're very true to their like 40k lore roots, which I love. I'm so happy that we've got some of the characters in there now. Nothing against the Compendium team, but you know, having a Shadow Seer in there and having a Death Jester in there. Death Jester is like my all-time favourite character, so I'm chuffed to bits that he's in there. And it also kind of filled a gap, right? Some of the stuff's been nerfed a little bit. I don't think that really matters too much. It's still going to be very strong on the table, and now we've kind of filled a few gaps. So there's the Psychic, which is a bit niche, obviously, but some ranged shooting now, and some good ranged shooting. You know, this is going to add a dimension that we didn't have before. So definitely a good thing, definitely a very strong team. Got their weaknesses, and like I say, there have been a couple of nerfs here and there, which I'll go through. But all in all, a more balanced, you know, better rounded team, which is going to make for some fun games, some hopefully quite competitive games. Are they the strongest team in the game? No, probably not. But could they compete with the strongest teams in the game? Yeah, absolutely. Once you've got your head around them, I think they're going to be very, very strong. There's just a learning curve. So, in fact, it might be interesting to get someone else's take on this. I'm going to get this reprobate on the phone. Hey, brother.
Hey, what up, man?
What's up, dude?
Looks a little bit better, sure.
That's all right. No one's going to be able to see it, probably. There you go. All right, so what would you say is the strongest team competitively in Kill Team right now? Vanguard.
Say Vanguard?
I think that's probably like most
If I
people
had
would
to
say something
one,
similar, right?
I would probably say Vanguard.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't play Vanguard though, right?
I do.
You do?
I don't play them like the top players play them.
No.
But I do try.
All right. So what would you say is the most fun team in the game?
For me, Scions.
Okay.
Just 10 Tempested Scions is my favorite team.
Right, but not particularly strong competitively, right?
Not compared to like all the bespoke stuff. No.
Okay.
Competent, but not like super strong.
Okay, that's basically it. It's just like I've got this theory about strong teams not being all that fun. But this new Harley team, I think, is going to be a blast, and I think they're going to be really strong. So that's what it is.
Really? See, I agree with you because Vanguard is like I feel like I have to prepare my brain to run Vanguard.
Yeah. Well, I think this is going to be pretty hard on most people's brain, but most of it I think is the wording. But anyway, do you have anything to say to all of the Eldar fanboys out here?
Yeah, screw you guys. Suck it. We hate. Yeah, no, much love.
All right, cheers, man. I won't hold you up.
All right, brother.
Thanks, buddy. See you, man. So there you go. Like most of the strong teams, the competitive teams in the game, in my opinion, not that fun. This new Harlequin kill team just has the potential to be not only very strong, but very, very good fun when you get your head around them. Not because they'll be easy, because they're not going to be easy. They're going to be a challenge, but they're going to be very rewarding. I just think they're going to be a blast. Just in terms of their diversity and the cool stuff that they can do, which is kind of fluffy and kind of in keeping with their lore. So anyway, that's my take on it. Okay, Sadath. Right, I'm going to read it to you as it's on here because it's just why, James, do you do this to us? Right, when selecting your kill team for the battle, select an allegory to be active for it during the battle. Reveal it to your opponent when you reveal your kill team. Then, at the start of the first strategy phase, select one friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative to have the pivotal role for the battle. While a friendly operative has the pivotal role, it has the accolade ability of the active allegory. Come on, man. Keep a performance tally for your kill team for the battle. Add 1 to the tally as follows. The first time each friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative completes the performance of an active allegory during the battle, and the first time a friendly pivotal role operative completes the performance of an active allegory during the battle. This is cumulative with the above. Note that this means for the purposes of your kill team's performance tally during the battle, each friendly operative can only complete one performance, and only one pivotal role can complete a performance. There's a lot of stupid words that have been thrown around there, and we get this table, right, of your performances. Allegory, performance, and accolade. So the allegory, comedy, epic, melodrama, odyssey, and tragedy. Oh my god. The performance for each of those allegories. So that's basically what you need to do, right? What each active operative needs to do in order to get your tally, right? And then the accolade is what you gain for doing that once you've kind of got enough strikes on your performance count, right? Basically forget all of it, right? The ones that you want to be focusing on are Odyssey and Tragedy because those are the two easiest ones to do, right? Forget about the other ones because you're not going to be able to do them with all of your operatives. You might be able to do them with 1 or 2. You've got the opportunity to change your allegory with the lead player once per battle, right? But switching between those two is going to be what's going to get you the most tallies and get you them as fast as possible. Because once you've got those tallies, you get the bonuses for them, right? And you get your extra command point, and then you generate an extra 1 command point for every turn that you get it. So if you can nail these in the first 2 turns, then that's huge for for your command point tally, right? Which means you can do more cool stuff. So the Odyssey performance is performing a charge action which ends the move within 6 inches of your opponent's drop zone. That's pretty easy. You want to be charging your boys in at some point anyway, and you kind of want to be aggressive, so you're going to be on that side of the board. Tragedy, probably the easiest one there. Basically, anytime you lose wounds from a shooting attack, then you get a tally. Obviously, your opponent's going to want to shoot you because they want to kill you, so you might as well be scoring something for taking the damage. You can't be too precious about this team, right? You've got to accept the fact that most of them are going to die throughout the battle, so you might as well be gaining something from that. The cool thing about this is that once you've got your accolades, so once you've got your bonuses for your tally, then you're going to get a bit of durability out of it too. You basically get a cover save even when you're not in cover, so I mean that's great. Honestly, the other allegories I wouldn't even bother with. Certainly not in a competitive setting, because they're a lot harder to get. A lot more has got to go right to get them, so just forget about them. So in summary, you are choosing one of these at the beginning of the battle, right? That's what you got to get your players to do, and that's what you get for doing it. Now, one of your players you get to choose the accolade for at the beginning of the battle. They get that straight up, right? Simple, and it's great, right? It's basically, I like the fact that they've called it a pivotal role straight off of 40k, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're just giving them an extra ability. Now, once per battle, you can change your allegory, so bear that in mind. You can switch between those two. So when you maybe start off with Odyssey, and then when you know that you're going to be hit hard with some shooting, change it that turn, the beginning of that turn in the strategy phase. Change the allegory and make good on those performances for that turn. Like I say, you know, they're going to want to shoot you anyway. You're going to lose some guys, so you might as well be getting some points for it. Now, bear in mind, you're going to want to score these tallies early on before your guys start dying, because each operative can only score a tally once per battle. For the most part, you're only going to need 4, which is easy, and if you play your cards right, you might even get it down in the first turning point. So you get your 4 tallies, you get the accolades for everybody for the rest of the battle, so you're going to have a nice little buff there. I would suggest you start off with Odyssey for the first turning point, and then change it in the second turning point to Tragedy, because that's probably going to be the more beneficial accolade to give everybody, because you're getting that extra little bit of durability. And it means you can be a little bit more aggressive and you're not having to kind of get into cover and stuff. With a bit of luck, you're going to get a couple of players into combat in the first turning point anyway. You are kind of chucking them away a bit, but you know, like I say, they're going to die at some point, so you might as well be getting the points for it. Following on from that, you've got some faction Tack Ops. 2 of which, if they come up for your selection, are well worth taking just because of the fact that you are trying to get your performance tally up. Mythic Play. If you're using the Sadath ability, reveal this Tack Op in the target reveal step of the first turning point. If your performance tally is 4 or more, you score 1 VP. So you're getting a victory point for doing what you want to be doing anyway. And if you score 6, you get another VP. Not beyond the realm of possibility. So yeah, definitely worth the take. Grand Act. You can reveal this Tack Op in the target reveal step of any turning point. When this Tack Op is revealed, start a Grand Act tally, adding 1 to the tally the first time each different performance is completed by any friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative. Note that it does not have to be the active allegory's performance. If your Grand Act tally is 5, you score 1 VP. If you achieve the first condition before the 4th turning point, you score 1 VP. So this is not as strong perhaps as Mythic Play. Essentially what you're trying to do is perform every performance. Now it seems like it's not very efficient, because you really just want to be focusing on the performances that you're playing the game for, right? And to get your accolade and to, you know. But you know, most of the things on there are going to come up. You will probably fall back at some point, or you certainly can force it if it's going to get you a victory point. You're going to incapacitate an enemy operative in combat by inflicting damage with 2 or less attack dice. You know, you're going to chip away at something to take some wounds off, and then you're going to get in there and get your crit and get your kill off the first dice. That's going to happen at some point in the battle, and if it's not, then you're probably losing anyway. You are going to incapacitate an enemy operative in a shooting attack by inflicting damage with 2 or more attack dice in the resolve successful hit step. That's a given, right? That's going to happen at some point. Again, if you're not doing that, then you're probably losing the game. They should be easy to get. If you can take both of those Tack Ops, then you've got a pretty strong chance of getting your victory points for both of those. And again, if you're not achieving it by the 4th turning point, then you're probably losing, right? So what you're going for with your Tack Ops is choosing your Tack Ops based on how you want to play the game anyway, right? Because then you're going to be getting points for the things that you want to already do. And again, if you're not getting those points, then you're probably losing. So, you know, that's the way that the Tack Ops should be selected, to just maximise your efficiency. And those two are both great plays. So if they both come up in your selection, then, you know, they're definitely well worth taking. Last one is Hero's Path. You can reveal this Tack Op when a friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative incapacitates an enemy operative at the end of the battle. If that friendly operative has incapacitated more enemy operatives than each other friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative has during the battle, you score 1 BP. If that friendly operative is wholly within your opponent's drop zone, you score 1 BP. I don't love this, because you want some flexibility, right? As a Harlequin player, you need to be quite strategic, but you do still want flexibility. You don't want to limit yourself and force yourself to do things with an operative that it doesn't make sense to do things with, right? So I'm not a big fan of this. Can it work? Absolutely. But you have to force it to work. And you're giving up some flexibility, and you're perhaps giving up a little bit of efficiency to do that. So it's still fine. But not great. Psychic powers. So this is where it gets a bit juicy, right? All of these powers are great. I think they're a lot stronger than a lot of people are giving them credit for. Certainly in certain instances anyway. So you've only got one Psyker on the battlefield, and that's Shadow Seer. So you want to try and keep him safe. Veil of Tears. Select one friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative visible to this operative. So visible to the Shadow Seer, until the end of the turning point for the purposes of determining line of sight. While that operative is more than 6 inches from the active operative, it is in cover. Enemy operatives cannot end a charge action within engagement range of that operative unless they began that action within 6 inches of it, or they would also end that action within engagement range of another friendly operative from your kill team. So this is great when you're trying to get someone up the board, or you're staging them to get into a position. This just helps keep them a little bit more safe, right? You can't charge him, not unless they get very close initially, which isn't efficient. And they're getting cover, right? So if he's got a conceal order, then you know, he can't be shot at all, even if he's wide open. Fog of Dreams. Select one ready enemy operative visible to this operative and roll 1d6. Until the end of the turning point, that enemy operative is treated as having a group activation characteristic of 1 and cannot be activated or perform actions until it is the last enemy operative to be activated, or a number of enemy operatives have been activated equal to the result of the d6. Okay, so again, more stupid wording. You're rolling a dice and say you get 3, right? So your opponent has to activate 3 models before they can activate the one that you've targeted with the psychic power. And also it's treated as having a group activation of 1. Now, most people have that as the main takeaway, right? That you're stopping that group activation, which is great against certain factions who are going to be a headache with their group activations. But it's not just about that, right? The second bit there, it cannot be activated or perform actions until it's the last available enemy operative. So if you have a bunch of operatives that you really need to activate before one individual enemy operative activates, then this is perfect, right? It stops them from activating. It's not necessarily for the group activation thing, it's just if you want to limit one model, then you can do that, right? And it means that you can be a little bit more strategic. You can get some stuff done before, you know, they let loose with theirs. There's also a little efficiency here that could be used in certain circumstances. When you're low on models, you've also got to think about Overwatch, right? So if they've got more models than you and they're activating last, you might be able to combo it with some Overwatch too, right? So you want that model dead, they have to activate, you know, a bunch of their other models before they can get to that one, by which time hopefully you're activating some Overwatch and you're going to be able to take them off the board, perhaps, right? It's just a nice little efficiency for late game, worth thinking about. Mirror of Minds, like this already appears quite strong, but it's stronger than it sounds, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Mirror of Minds, select one enemy operative within this operative's line of sight. Both players roll 6d6, so you're rolling 6 dice each. Pair your dice with your opponent's dice based on matching results. For each matching pair, that enemy operative suffers 1 mortal wound. For example, if you roll 6, 5, 5, 4, 2, 1, and your opponent rolls 6, 5, 4, 4, 3, 1, that enemy operative would suffer 4 mortal wounds. So any matching results is a mortal wound, right, from both your dice rolls. You both roll 6 dice. Any matching pairs between your dice and your opponent's dice, that is 1 mortal wound. Incredibly strong. You're generally going to get 2, and if you're lucky, you know, you're going to be getting 3, 4, you know, 5's probably a push. But now, what makes this particularly strong is that most aggressive psychic powers like this are shooting attacks, right? I can't think of one off the top of my head. The new Void Scarred psychic, there's a lightning strike there, which is classed as a shooting attack. None of these are classed as shooting attacks. This Mirror of Minds, although it's aggressive, is not a shooting attack, which means that your Shadow Seer can have a conceal order and still do it, and he can get aggressive, which again is adding some efficiency. So you can cover some line of sight from a vantage point at the back of the board, from cover and a conceal order, which means they can't shoot you. You're far enough back that you'll be safe for a couple of turns, hopefully. And you can dish out some mortal wounds, as well as, you know, being strategic about using your other psychic powers. And using him in combination with a Death Jester, you know, on the other side of your deployment zone, on another vantage point, you're going to be able to really limit your opponent's movement based on line of sight to both of those models. And that all counts, right? It helps you to better trap your opponent into making moves that you want them to make, so that you can kind of better anticipate and counter and stuff. Man, it's really strong. And also, he's like, his stat line's really good too. He can shoot and he can fight. So, you know, if you're running short on models and you need him to actually do stuff, he can. He's a very, very capable model. So the other unique character that you've got there is the Death Jester. I am so glad that we got a Death Jester. Basically, he's kind of the same as everybody else, but he gets an additional wound, which is kind of cool. He's got the same amount of wounds as the lead player. I think actually the Shadow Seer does as well. Yep. So that's, you know, something to bear in mind. Now he's got a Shrieker Cannon, which is 5 attacks on 3 ups with 4 and 5 damage, and rending, because it's a shuriken weapon, right? Now it's also got Fusillade, heavy, and this Humbling Cruelty ability, which is really, very cool. But the coolest thing about him, especially if you're going up against large model counts that tend to be sort of bunched together, or group activation stuff, is his Shrieking Harvest unique action, right? For 2 action points, you perform a free shoot action with this operative using the Shrieker Cannon it is equipped with. The Shrieker Cannon has the Torrent Circle special rule instead of the Fusillade special rule for that shooting attack. So that means that any models that are bunched together that you can see, you can shoot all of them in turn. So you've got some models like squeezed together. That's an awful lot of firepower to put down, right? The interesting thing about him is because of his potential output, it's forcing your opponent to play in a particular way, right? He can't bunch his models together. Can't leave himself out in the open. It gives you more opportunity to trap your opponent into making moves that you want them to make. It's not just his actual potential, it's the threat of his potential, right? What a winner. And then we've got your players, and your lead player. So the lead player is essentially exactly the same as the lead player in the companion team. The only real difference, other than the changes to their weapon loadouts, there's been a couple of changes to those, is this performance lead ability. So once per battle, you can change your allegory. Been through that, nothing really more to say about it. Use it, utilize it, get those victory points out of it as well. So in terms of loadouts, I like to give my lead player a Neuro Disruptor and Psycho Crystals. Now, not many people use the Psycho Crystals, and I think it's really, really underrated, especially on the lead player who's hitting on 2s, right? It's got that little bit of extra range over the Fusion Pistol, but getting that lethal 5 up on it, and you've obviously got the stun, and it's got AP1, like, it's a great pistol. It's really, really very strong, and you're just getting that extra little bit of efficiency because he's hitting on 2s. And then he's taking a power weapon basically every time, again, for that lethal 5 up is so invaluable, and you're getting that extra 1 damage over the other weapons on the crit. So 4 on a normal hit, 6 on a crit, but again you've got more opportunity there to crit with your lethal 5 up. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. And then you've got your standard players, right? So you don't get any gunners anymore, but you've got a fusion pistol and you've got a Neuro Disruptor to put on 2 of your players. Like I say, I generally give a Neuro Disruptor to the lead player because I think it's more efficient that way. Fusion pistol, stick on one of your standard players rather than giving it to one of the characters. The fusion pistol is basically a delete button anyway, right? It hitting on a 3 up, it's fine. That's not a bad thing at all. Like I say, you got to be quite lucky. Now, some people do get unlucky with fusion. It's just one of those things. It can be a bit bitty. I don't put too much value in it. Like, I don't tend to play around like relying on my fusion pistol. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I need a backup plan. So, you know, it's a great thing to have in a team, and kind of think about how you're going to use it. Like, it might be that it's going to be necessary against a particular model that you just need off the board, and then you just yeet it in, you know, suicide mission. But don't put too much importance on it, right? Yeah, it's a hot take, but, you know. Now, the big change really on their melee weapons is that the caress has been vastly improved. So whereas it was hitting on 4s before, it's now hitting on 3s. You've got rending on it, and it's got the standard 4 normal damage and 5 critical damage. A lot of people are running kisses. Kisses are fine. There is an argument for kisses, for sure, especially against low wound models, because you can wipe them off the board with that first hit if you're getting the crit. And the likelihood of you getting a crit is relatively high because you've got 5 attacks, right? But you guys have all got 3 action points, so why are you not shooting before you're charging in anyway? You know, once you start hitting your opponent hard, most of the models you're going to be charging into will probably have had some wounds chipped away from them anyway. So I don't put as much importance on that damage output than other people do, because you know, the normal damage is higher, and I think on balance that's better, and also getting the special rules often works out better anyway. The rending's great on the caress. The blades seem to be the one that I'm taking the most because of balance. Like, it's so good, but you need to bear in mind that this is all relative because we're so brittle, right? That for the most part, if you're not dealing that damage straight away, you're taking some heavy hits in return. You just got to kind of suck it up and take it, but at least now, basically, everything on there except for the embrace, perhaps, is viable, right? It's viable, and it's not only viable, it's really strong. So have at it. I think, depending on what you think your matchups are going to be, will depend on what you take. But I think the blade's probably the most well-rounded weapon that's on there. I've been playing with some caresses, and I actually totally missed that initially when I read the rules, because I was so used to it being on 4s that I just, you know, didn't bother with it. But then when I noticed, it was like, oh damn, okay, this is actually good again. So yeah, play around with it. Now, equipment. So the compendium team, just on principle, I really hated the fact that you couldn't make up 10 equipment points because everything was 3. That really bothered me. Now you've got ways to make it up to 10 exactly. And what do? I do it in a way that I'm wasting 2 equipment points. My takes, personally, are the Shrieker Toxin rounds for your Death Jester and a support grip for the Death Jester too. So you're spunking 5 equipment points straight away on your Death Jester, but it does make him super, super good. And he is like, he's an MVP every game, like he's so good. And then, like I said before, the Pure Psycho Crystals I think is a really, really great take for the Neuro Disruptor on your lead player. Gives you that lethal 5-up, makes it that much easier to stun and also do your critical damage. I prefer it to any of the other stuff that's on there. If you're going to be running kisses, there's an argument to taking 1 or 2 with the Super Tensile Monofilament wire, which ups the normal damage, right? Which makes it a slightly better take, because then the normal damage is the same as on the other weapons. However, the whole point of taking a kiss is the big damage that the critical hits do. So I don't feel that it's as worthwhile taking that equipment over something else, personally. The other equipment that you got there is the Death Mask for 3 EP, which means when that operative dies, you get a CP. It was great on the Compendium team. Now, because of the extra CP that you should be getting for doing your performances, I don't think it's worth taking anymore. Yeah, and accelerated monofilament wire for the Embraces. I used to take this a lot on the Compendium team. I rated the Embraces with that brutal, like it came in clutch in a couple of games, but the great thing about this particular equipment is the Reap 1, and also that it gives it 5-up, so you're kind of a lot more likely to get your crits straight off the bat. Again, the way the team has been changed, it's not as relevant anymore, so you're probably not going to use it. Wraithbane Talisman, a classic. It's just a free CP reroll. Again, it's not really relevant anymore because of the extra CP that you're going to be getting from your allegories, so leave it at home. Prismatic Grenade, you know, it's great, but I don't really see the need for it over the other stuff. For me, the Shrieker rounds and the support grip are too good to pass up. The only one that's left that's relevant for me is the Psycho Crystals. So that's what I've been taking. It's annoying that you're giving up 2 equipment points, you know, now that you can make a perfect 10 and you're not likely to do that if you're going to buff your Death Jester. It's a pain, but you know, you're getting a lot out of it. So, okay, Ploys. Strategic Ploys. There's a couple of new ones, and there's some old classics which have been nerfed now. I'm all for it. Like I think before, Domino Field was too strong, and Prismatic Blur was too strong. It's a shame. I used Prismatic Blur a lot. You know, I was one of these guys that would pop Domino Field in the first turning point, and then after that I'd be popping Prismatic Blur because it's just so good. But the way they've been rewritten is better for the game, so I'm all for it. Between colours, until the end of the turning point, friendly Void Dancer Troupe operatives can perform shoot actions during normal move actions. Any remaining increments of movement can be used after performing the shoot action. You cannot select a Shrieker Cannon for those shooting attacks. This is really interesting, right? It opens up some cool stuff, and it feels a bit like 40k Harlequins, right? It actually kind of feels like Eldar, like the 9th edition Eldar rules with the battle focus stuff, where they can kind of move and then shoot, and then they can move out of the way, or the fire and fade, like from the old game stuff. It's cool. It's going to give you some efficiency when you need it. The problem is, you know, having to waste or spend a CP on it at the beginning of the turning point to preempt it. It's not going to be all of your guys, right, that you're going to use it for. It's cool, and it opens up some interesting play, but you know, I don't think it's the best thing that's on him. Domino field. Until the end of the turning point or until it makes a shooting attack, each friendly Void Dancer Troop operative has a domino field for the purposes of determining line of sight, while a friendly operative with a domino field is within 1 inch of a terrain feature and more than 6 inches from the active operative. The active operative always treats that friendly operative as having a conceal order regardless of any other rules. Almost always you're going to pop it in that first turn just to keep you guys a little bit more safe, right? I'm not going to go into details how it's played because most of you here are going to have played the Compendium team and you know how strong it is. Prismatic Blur. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Void Dancer Troop operative performs an action in which it moves, it is a Prismatic Blur until the end of the turning point. Each time a shooting attack is made against a friendly operative that is a Prismatic Blur, in the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, you can re-roll one of your defense dice. So they've taken away the melee element of it, which is what I played it for. But this is still really good, and there's a definite argument to popping Domino Field and Prismatic Blur in the first turning point, because once you've got your allegories out of the way, you'll be getting more CP. So once you've hit your 4th tally, you're going to be getting an extra command point anyway, and then in any subsequent turning point, you'll be getting an extra command point on top of the one that you already get. So you'll have a few spare CP. So, you know, it's not a silly move. I like to keep one in reserve for a reroll or murderous entrance or what's the other one? Curtain falls. You don't want to be spending them all in the first turning point, but you do also really want to keep you guys safe. So, Kegorak's Jest. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Void Dancer Troop operative fights in combat, once in the resolve successful hit step of that combat, when your opponent strikes with a hit, you can roll 1d6. If the result is equal to or less than the weapon skill characteristic of the enemy operative's selected melee weapon, treat that strike as a parry instead. And the Brutal special rule has no effect for that party. Brutal is probably not going to come up all that often. So it's cool. It's certainly great against teams that are hitting on 4s. Yeah, again, it's like it's situational, and at least with Domino Field and Prismatic Blur, you know what you're getting and you can plan your turn around it, right? This is more situational, so you're not going to be using it as often. Tactical Ploys. Right, Murderous Entrance, one of my absolute favourite tactical ploys in the whole game. Uses Tactical Ploy in the resolve successful hit step of combat after a friendly Void Dancer Troop operative that performed a charge action during this activation strikes with a critical hit. You can immediately select one of your remaining attack dice and strike with it. So this is the reason why I don't rate the Kiss all that high. If you've got CP in the bank, you can be popping this when you're in combat anyway, and you're more than likely going to kill most stuff that you hit. Yeah, I don't think having the extra critical damage of the Kiss is worth it when you've got such a strong tactical ploy that you can use just in case, right? If you need something dead and you don't want to take the damage, then you know it's a good one to have. The only caveat to that is that if you've got a Kiss with monofilament wire and you're playing this too, you've got the potential there for 11 wounds. Or more, or you know, if you've got 2 crits, then you've got 14 wounds, right? Which you'd have even without the monofilament wire, I should add. So yeah, it does have its place, and there's definitely an argument for having 1 or 2 kisses on the field purely for that big damage output in combination with this. So think on that, but again, I still think that the blades and the caresses are the better picks. The Curtain Falls. I love this, and everyone I play with hates it. Uses Tactical Ploy in the resolved successful hit step of combat after an active friendly Void Dancer Troop operative strikes. Immediately end that combat, and that friendly operative can perform a fallback action for 1 AP, even if it has performed an action during that activation that prevents it from falling back. It's awesome. So the nice thing about this is that you've got the option of this or Murderous Entrance depending on what needs doing, right? If you're not going to kill that thing but you just want to chip some wounds at it, move in, hit it, move back out again and get safe, and you're not going to get hit back. It's great. It's so good. I use it at least once every battle. Understand how to use it, understand how to use Murderous Entrance, and learn how to spot which one is going to be best in what situation. Ruthless Derision. Use this tactical ploy after rolling your attack dice for a shooting attack made by a friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative in an activation in which it performed a fallback action. You can re-roll any or all of your attack dice for that shooting attack. The cool thing about this is that it synchronizes well with some other stuff. Now, if you are using that Grand Act Tack Op, this is great, right? Because one of your performances, the Comedy Allegory, it requires you to do a fallback action, right? What's strong about this is that you use the tactical ploy after you roll your attack dice. You don't have to pop it before you roll, right? So using it in combination with that fallback action, you know, it's incredibly strong, and it gives you that little bit of extra efficiency on, you know, you're forcing yourself to have to fall back. You might as well kind of sync it up with this at a time when you kind of really need some damage output. It's great, but again, basically everything about a Harlequin kill team is strategy. You really need to be quite strategic about it. They're an unforgiving kill team, but if you learn all of these little efficiencies, they're so good. Capricious Roll. Use this tactical ploy when a friendly Void Dancer Troupe operative is activated. Until the end of its activation, that operative can perform dash and charge actions while within engagement range of enemy operatives. Again, much stronger than it sounds. Like when I first read that, I was like, kind of, it's cool, it's cute, but actually, like now thinking on it, it opens up some very, very strong and very, very annoying things that you can do. So, well worth a thought. The other ones are stronger, and the two that you really need to kind of learn to spot are the Murderous Entrance and the Curtain Falls. But don't discount that Ruthless Derision. I think it's got some legs on it. Especially, you know, if you're being efficient and using it at the right time in combination with other stuff, it's great, really good. If you have any particular questions about this kill team, or you want anything clarifying, then just let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm new to it too. I've only just wrapped my head around the rules myself. I haven't had the opportunity to play very much with them. I'm enjoying them so far, and I will continue to enjoy them. Do I prefer them to the Compendium team? Yes. Are they as strong? Not sure. But for me, what I love about this is that they are fluffy, right? So yes, there's a lot to learn. Once you got your head around it, it's a lot simpler than it appears on the page, just because of good old James and the way they word stuff, like made it needlessly complicated. I love it. I think they have the potential to be every bit as strong as the Compendium team, but time will tell. I think you're not going to see it much in competitive play initially, just because it's so overwhelming. But if you take the time to kind of feel it out, learn your little efficiencies and your strategy, I think you're going to have so much fun with it, and also be very, very competitive. I'm really keen to know what other people's takes have been on it, because I've heard a little bit of hate, I've heard a little bit of love, but for the most part I've just heard that like they're too complicated. So hopefully this has sort of cleared a little bit of that up for a lot of you, and I hope that it means that some of you are going to be trying them out on the tabletop. Thanks for coming. Like, comment, subscribe and all that. It really, really helps me out. I'm really trying to kind of push this channel along, so any support that you can give me is very much appreciated. Now I have an avatar of Kane to paint, so I'm out. I'll catch you later. See ya.